Welcome back, guys. Today I wanted to recap the trades we called out this past week and call out another 10 for this upcoming week. As always, we look at the closing price from the last trading session of the previous week and compare that to the high of the week after. If it went up enough and there was a good enough range to make a profit via a day trade or swing trade, we consider that trade to be a success. All in all, today's recap was not bad at all. We had some pretty good winners and we're 8 of 11, so about a 73% accuracy, which is exactly what you want to aim for. So without further ado, let's get started. First stock we called out was Target, and this thing went up massively from a closing price of $125.86 to a high of $131.93. Definitely a great move there. Next stock is Walgreens. This was a pretty modest move, but I definitely don't think the move is done, which is why it's included on our watch list for this week as well. But it had a closing price of $40.71 and made a high of $41.61, so almost $1 per share right there. Next stock is FTI. It had a closing price of $8.03 from last week and made a high of $8.69, not bad. Next stock is Xerox. This is another stock that I don't think is done yet, so we're also going to include this on our next watch list, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But the closing price for this was $16.65 and it made a high of $16.77. There was a small margin to make a profit there, but definitely not the kind of range you want to see, which is why I believe I called this out too early and should have waited for this upcoming week, which is where I think it's going to gap up significantly based on the weekly chart. So we'll see. Next stock is Duke Energy. Again, don't think the move is quite done yet and will include it in my watch list for a move higher. But the closing price from last week was $84.74 and the high from this past week was $86.69, so almost a $2 per share move right there. Next stock is COM. I believe this was our biggest winner in terms of percentage. The closing price was $9.28 and it made a high of $11.50. Very great stuff right there. Next stock is ED, and this is where the wrong callouts begin. The stock had a closing price of $76.83 and it did not make a high past that, so definitely not what we're looking for. I think if I assessed this better last week, I could tell the stock could have gone either way based on how it was brushing against this 20 EMA on the weekly. Similarly with the next stock, PRK, did not make a high from the closing price of $85.76, but I believe I was just early to the party and think the stock is going to run higher this upcoming week from the closing price of this past week, so definitely going to include that in the watch list as well. Look out for that. Next stock is TRP, which was also included in last week's watch list. Had a closing price of $45.60 and made a high of $48.36. Not bad at all. Finally, the last stock is Hershey's. Its high this week did not pass the closing price of last week, so a disappointment right there. However, it does look like it's done consolidating and might make a move higher now, but I'm not going to include it this week on my watch list. I think there are better setups, but by all means, if this is a stock you guys want to watch, definitely do so. It is a bit extended, so just keep that in mind. I know I said this was the last stock as far as a recap, but there was actually another stock I called out last week but did not include in the video, which was Rumble, RMBL. I called this out on a post. As you can see, it went from a closing price of $21.75 to a high of $25.48. A very good move right there for a small cap stock. But anyways, let's move on to our watch list for this upcoming week. First stock on the watch list is ticker symbol VREX. As you can see from the weekly chart, a reversal indicator went off a couple of weeks ago. I believe this move is a pullback and now we're finally going to see a good gap up. There's support right here, so maybe it might come down and retest it before actually gapping up. Then again, I see resistance right here as well, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but the setup looks very good. Let's switch over to the daily chart. Not as ideal as the weekly chart, but glad to see it above the 20 EMA. Next stock is TPR. Not to be confused with TRP, which was on our watch list these past 2 weeks. Right away, I can tell the daily chart looks very good, especially judging by the last daily candlestick and how it's above both these moving averages. Switching over to the weekly chart. Love the reversal indicator from a couple of weeks ago, and now it looks like it has room to run. Gotta be careful of this 20 EMA though. We're still under it, so it could serve as resistance, something to watch. Next stock is SBSI. Ideally, you would have liked to buy the week before, but I like that it's now above the 20 EMA and see a continuation play up to 31. Let's switch over to the daily chart. So the thing about me, I like to anticipate the big move before it actually happens, and as you can see from the daily chart, the big move happened on Friday. So it may go through consolidation. Nonetheless, I have this stock going up this week, so look out for that. The next two stocks were from our watch list last week. The first one is Xerox Xrx. As I commented earlier, I call this stock out a little bit early. I think the big move is coming this week, and we could possibly see it reach the 20 EMA. Switch over to the daily chart. The daily chart doesn't look as great. As we can see, we're approaching the 100-day SMA, so I think it's going to pull back on maybe the first few days of this week before ultimately breaking this moving average and going up. Next stock is Walgreens, WBA. Again, we're approaching the 100-day SMA, but think there's still enough range there to make a good profit. Switch over to the weekly chart. Based on the setup and the reversal indicator, it definitely looks like it's primed for a move higher, so definitely one to keep on watch. I know the video called for 5 stocks, so if you're still watching this video, thank you, because I'm gonna give you 2 bonus stocks that I think will gap up this week. The first one is ticker symbol PRK. I called this out last week, but as I said earlier, I was a little bit early to the party. Should have waited for it to consolidate a bit, and I think it has. The stock looks primed to definitely make a move higher. Switch over to the daily chart. Gotta overtake that 200-day SMA, but I definitely think we can do it this week. The last stock is Duke Energy. We were correct on this last week, but I think it still has more room to continue. We can look at the weekly chart as well. A bit extended, but still see a bullish play happening, so let's look out for that. Those are all the stocks for this week, guys. As always, if you enjoyed this video and found it valuable, please consider subscribing to this channel and hitting that like button. It'll tremendously help out this channel, and I would significantly appreciate it. Other than that, good luck trading, and I'll see you guys for another video next week. Take care.